The starship Aurora Dawn drifted slowly through the silver clouds of Varela Prime. For Captain James Carter, this was more than just another diplomatic mission. It was history. Humans had never set foot on this alien world before. Everything. Here was unknown's people, its culture, even its air. James stood by the viewport, watching the glittering city below. It sparkled like a field of stars, towers made of crystalline light stretching into the sky. His crew whispered behind him, voices full of excitement and nerves. "Remember," James said, turning to them, "we're guests. We follow their customs, no matter how strange they seem." Those words would haunt him soon. The ship landed on a wide landing platform, surrounded by alien guards in shimmering armor. The air shimmered with heat, or maybe with energy, was hard to tell. A long carpet of deep blue silk stretched from the landing pad to an open courtyard where dozens of alien citizens waited. They were taller than humans, their skins smooth and glowing faintly under the sunlight. Their hair shimmered in metallic shades, silver, copper, gold, and their eyes were bright as gemstones. Most striking were their clothes: long flowing dresses for women, elegant tunics for men. At the far end stood the leader, a tall woman with hair like spun platinum, wearing a crown of living flowers that pulsed with light. James took a deep breath and walked forward. His boots touched the silk carpet. All eyes followed him, and then the first female alien stepped forward from the crowd. She smiled, took the sides of her long dress, and lifted it, not in a shy, subtle way. She lifted it high, holding it just above her knees, revealing smooth, patterned skin like living marble. The human crew froze. James blinked, unsure if he should look away or meet her eyes. The alien woman gave a slight nod, then stepped back into the crowd. Before he could speak, another woman stepped forward. And another. One by one, they all did the same thing, lifting their dresses, pausing, and lowering them again. Some smiled warmly. Others looked at him with sharp, unreadable eyes. The human crew shifted uncomfortably. Someone whispered, "Is this what I think it is?" Another muttered, "Maybe it's a test." James kept his expression calm, but inside, questions spun in his mind. Was this a greeting? A threat? Finally, the leader stepped forward. She did not lift her dress, but her eyes sparkled with amusement. "Welcome, Captain James Carter of Earth," she said in a voice like music. "You honor us with your presence." James bowed slightly. "The honor is mine. I noticed your people have a unique greeting." The leader tilted her head. "Unique, perhaps. But it is a very old tradition, one we still hold dear." I didn't explain further. Instead, she gestured for him to follow. The crowd parted, and the procession began. As James walked, more women stepped from the sides, repeating the strange ritual. Some held their gaze on him until the last moment. Some whispered to each other after lowering their dresses, and then he noticed something else: the men were watching too. But their expressions were far from welcoming. Their eyes followed him like predators tracking prey. Their hands tightened around the hilts of ceremonial blades. James leaned toward his second-in-command, Lieutenant Harris. "Do you see that? The men don't look happy." Harris nodded grimly. "Maybe we broke a rule without knowing it." They reached the courtyard where a feast table was set with glowing fruits and crystal goblets. Musicians played soft, strange melodies in the background. But the tension in the air was thick, like a storm waiting to break. James tried to focus on the leader's words, but the image of the repeated gesture burned in his mind. His instincts told him this was more than just a welcome. This was a signal. Acclaimed. As the feast began, James caught sight of a young alien woman watching him from across the table. Her dress was a deep shade of red, and her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Slowly, Deliberately, she rose from her seat and lifted her dress, but she didn't stop at her knees. She held it higher, longer, her gaze locked on him. A sharp sound broke the moment the slam of a goblet on the table. One of the alien men was staring at James, jaw tight, knuckles white. The leader smiled faintly, as if nothing had happened, and continued speaking about trade agreements. But James knew something dangerous was brewing. The music seemed softer now, the air heavier. He realized his first step on alien soil had already set things in motion, and whatever this greeting meant, it wasn't harmless. In the shadows beyond the courtyard, the alien men kept watching him, and none of them were smiling. The feast continued, but Captain James Carter barely tasted the strange, glowing fruit on his plate. His mind kept going back to the greetings, the slow, deliberate lifting of dresses, the way the women's eyes lingered on him, and the way the men's faces darkened each time. He knew misunderstandings could ruin a first-contact mission. And right now, he felt like he was walking blindfolded through a minefield. Leaning toward Lieutenant Harris, he whispered, "Ask the translator what that gesture means." Harris tapped at the small silver device pinned to his chest. The AI voice hummed softly. Gesture detected, unknown cultural signal. No translation available. No matching database entries. James frowned. No matches? That's impossible. We've been studying their culture for months. The translator replied, "This gesture does not appear in any official records." James sat back, unsettled. If it wasn't in their official records, that meant one of two things. It was either a forgotten tradition or something deliberately kept secret from outsiders. Across the table, the young woman in the deep red dress was still watching him. She hadn't touched her food. Every few minutes, her gaze flicked to the alien men sitting near her, as if daring them to react. Then, without a word, she rose and left the courtyard. James caught himself watching her go, and immediately noticed the leader's eyes on him. She smiled not warmly, but knowingly. The feast ended, and the leader invited him for a tour of the city. The streets of Varela Prime were like something out of a dream. Bridges of glowing crystal arched between towers. Streams of golden water flowed in canals along the streets. Strange flying creatures drifted overhead, their wings like sheets of light. But the beauty couldn't hide the unease building in James's gut. Everywhere they went, the pattern repeated: women stepping forward, lifting their dresses in that same deliberate motion. Some smiled playfully. Others stared at him with unreadable faces. But all of them, without fail, looked straight into his eyes before lowering the fabric again. The men, they didn't smile at all. Some even muttered under their breath. James couldn't hear the words, but the tone was sharp. Finally, one of the guards walking beside him said something in the alien language. The translator caught only fragments. Many offers, too many claims. Dangerous? James slowed his step. What did he just say? The translator beeped. Partial translation: multiple females have issued claim. Conflict likely. Claim. He didn't have time to ask more before they reached the marketplace. The market was alive with sound vendors calling out, selling glowing fabrics, carved crystal, strange fruits, and animals that chirped like bells. The scent of flowers and hot metal mixed in the air. The moment James stepped in, merchants stopped what they were doing. Female merchants came forward, smiling, lifting their dresses in greeting. One reached out and touched his arm before stepping back. The crowd began to murmur, then James heard it, just a whisper, but clear enough. An older alien woman leaned toward another and said in her native tongue, "He doesn't even know what it means." James stopped in his tracks. That one sentence was crystal clear. The translator confirmed it. Lieutenant Harris leaned in. "Sir, I think we're in the middle of something we don't understand." James nodded slowly. No, we understand one thing needs something important, and the men here hate it. They returned toward the palace as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of copper and violet. The leader walked ahead, speaking with other alien officials. Her voice light and cheerful as if she didn't notice the tension building behind her. James glanced to the side and saw movement. Down a narrow alley, the woman in the red dress was standing in the shadows, watching him. She lifted a hand in a small wave, then beckoned for him to follow. James slowed his pace, glancing back at Harris. "Keep the others moving. I'll be right behind." Harris gave him a doubtful look, but nodded. James slipped into the alley. The red-dressed woman stood with her back to the wall, eyes sharp, scanning the street behind him. When he approached, she spoke in halting English, her voice low. "You are in danger." James blinked. "Danger? Because of the greeting?" She nodded once. "It is not greeting. It is claim. When woman lifts dress to man, she says, 'I choose you.' It is public. It cannot be taken back." The weight of her words hit him hard. "So every woman who did that today has claimed you," she finished. "And every man who wanted her now sees you as thief." James exhaled slowly, the pieces clicking together. That explains the looks, the whispers. The woman's eyes flicked to the palace gates. "Some will challenge you. Soon. Be ready." Before he could ask her name, she stepped back into the shadows and disappeared. James returned to the main street, his mind racing. The leader was waiting at the palace doors, smiling as if she knew exactly where he had been. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will be honored in our great hall." Her smile widened beautiful, but with a glint of danger. "It will be a very public event." James felt his stomach twist. Whatever tomorrow brought, it wasn't going to be just another welcome ceremony. Asterisk morning light spilled through the crystal windows of the guest chambers, painting the walls in shifting colors. Captain James Carter sat on the edge of his bed, rubbing his temples. The words of the woman in the red dress echoed in his mind. "It is not greeting. It is claim." It meant trouble worse than trouble. If she was right, then every woman who had lifted her dress had declared him hers in front of the entire city. And every alien man who wanted those women now saw James as the enemy. A chime sounded. The palace guards arrived, their faces expressionless, and motioned for him to follow. Today, the leader had said, would be a public honor ceremony. But after yesterday, James wasn't sure what honor meant here. The great hall was massive, its ceiling lost in shadows, lined with tall columns of polished stone. Banners of gold and silver hung from the walls. Hundreds of aliens filled the room, nobles in their finery, guards in gleaming armor, and citizens standing along the edges. James entered with Lieutenant Harris at his side. Whispers spread through the crowd like a rising wind. The leader sat on a throne at the far end of the hall. Her smile was perfect, but her eyes were sharp. "Captain James Carter," she called. "Welcome to the heart of Varela Prime. Today, we celebrate your arrival and your many admirers." The words made James's skin prickle. Many admirers. That could only mean one thing. The leader raised a hand. "Those who have laid claim may step forward." James's breath caught. From the crowd, women began to move, 1, 2, then more. They formed a line in the center of the hall. Each lifted her dress in that same deliberate way, holding it for a moment before lowering it. Some smiled warmly. Others looked at him with fierce pride. The audience murmured in approval or in warning. Then the woman in the red dress stepped forward. She didn't smile. Her gaze locked on his, unblinking. She lifted her dress just enough, slowly, like a challenged. The men in the room shifted angrily. That's when it happened, the misstep. James, unsure how to respond, gave her a polite bow. smiled. Gasps filled the hall. He realized to Leighton Earth a smile was harmless. Here it was. Acceptance, the crowd erupted. Alien men shouted, some slamming their fists against their chests in a warrior's challenge. Guards stepped forward, weapons at their sides. The leader's voice cut through the noise, calm but carrying power. It seems our guest accepts at least one claim. Now the old law must be honored. James's heart pounded. Old law. The leader rose from her throne. When a claim is accepted, the woman's male kin have the right to test the man's worth in the arena. From the far side of the hall, two tall alien men stepped forward, both broad-shouldered, armored, and armed with long curved blades. Their eyes burned with fury. One of them spoke, and the translator caught every word. "You will bleed for this, human." The crowd roared as guards surrounded James and Harris. The leader gestured toward the massive doors at the side of the hall. "You will face them in the trial of the chosen," she said. "If you win, the claim stands. If you lose, well, you will not need to worry about such matters again." Harris leaned in. "Sir, this is insane. You didn't agree to anything." James's voice was low. "Tell that to them." The guards marched them toward the arena. The sound of the crowd's chants growing louder. The arena was a circular pit of pale sand, surrounded by tiered seats packed with spectators. Above, banners snapped in the warm wind. James was handed a weapon, a short, curved blade lighter than it looked. He turned it in his hands, testing its balance. The two alien challengers entered from the opposite gate, each carrying their own weapons. They didn't waste time with greetings. The gong sounded. The first attacker charged, his blade whistling through the air. James ducked, rolling aside, feeling the wind of the strike pass inches from his head. He wasn't stronger than them, but he was faster. The second came in from the side, trying to pin him. James kicked sand up into his eyes and darted away. The crowd hissed in surprise. He kept moving, dodging and weaving, never letting them corner him. They were powerful, but predictable, swinging heavy blows that he sidestepped at the last second when one overextended. James hooked his leg and sent him crashing to the ground. The crowd roared. The second lunged again, but James pivoted, letting his opponent's own momentum carry him forward. With a quick sweep of his blade, he disarmed him. Both challengers were now on the ground, breathing hard. James stood over them, his blade steady but not striking. The arena went silent. The leader's voice rang out from the stands. "It seems the human fights with skill and mercy." The crowd erupted in cheers, though some still shouted angrily. The woman in the red dress was watching from the front row. For the first time, she smiled, but James knew this wasn't over. Winning the fight might have saved him for now, but it also meant the claim stood, and that could drag him into even deeper trouble. As the guards led him out of the arena, the leader leaned close and whispered just for him to hear, "You have survived the first test, Captain, but you still do not understand the game you are playing." Her smile was flawless. Her eyes promised more challenges to come. The arena sand still clung to Captain James Carter's boots as the guards escorted him back toward the Great Hall. His heart had slowed, but the memory of the fight was sharp in his mind, the flash of blades, the shouts of the crowd, the moment he chose mercy instead of killing. He thought it might have won him some respect. But as they entered the throne room again, James realized respect wasn't the goal here. Control was. The leader sat back on her throne, hands folded, her platinum hair shimmering in the torchlight. She regarded him the way a chess master studies a piece on the board. "Captain Carter," she said, her voice smooth as silk, "you have passed the first challenge. Few outsiders have done so." James bowed slightly. "If it's all the same, I'd rather there not be a second." Our smile widened not kindly. "There must be. You see, You have been claimed not once, but many times." A murmur spread through the hall. The leader raised her hand, and one by one, more women stepped forward. 7 in total, including the woman in the red dress. James's stomach sank. The leader rose from her throne. "When a man is claimed by more than one, our law demands the trial of the chosen." The words echoed in the hall. Even the guards shifted, uneasy. James straightened. "And what exactly is that?" The leader's eyes gleamed. "You will choose. One. Only one. The others must be refused. In the old way?" Harris, standing beside him, frowned. "Old way? What's that supposed to mean?" The leader's voice lowered, but the whole hall seemed to lean in. To refuse is to face her bloodkin in combat, and, in some cases, to the death. The crowd reacted. Some gasped. Others grinned in anticipation. James's mind raced. If he refused all but one, he'd be fighting 6 more battles. And this time, they might not be ceremonial. He scanned the line of women. Some looked proud, others almost desperate. The woman in the red dress met his gaze without flinching. She didn't smile. Oh, she didn't plead. She simply stood there, her posture strong, like someone who had nothing to lose. The leader turned to him. "You have until sunset to decide. Choose wisely. Your life depends on it." The palace gave James a private room to consider his options. Harris paced the floor. "This is a setup," Harris said. "They want you to pick someone, and whoever you pick will tie you into their politics. Whoever you don't pick, their family will want blood." James sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees. "Yeah, I noticed." Harris lowered his voice. "If I'm reading this right, picking the wrong woman could start a civil war. Picking no one might get us both killed." There was a knock at the door. When James opened it, the woman in the red dress slipped inside. Her movements quick and silent. "You should choose me," she said immediately. James raised an eyebrow. "Not much for small talk, are you?" She ignored the comment. "If you choose anyone else, the clans will fight. If you choose no one, you die. But if you choose me, they unite." "Why you?" James asked. Her eyes were steady. "Because I am the leader's daughter." James blinked. "You're the weight." "That makes all of this a game," she finished. "1. My mother plays well, but she did not expect me to claim you." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "If you choose me, it ends the fighting. My mother gets a political victory, and you leave alive. If you don't, my mother will use your death to rally the clans against each other. Either way, she wins. But one way, you live." James studied her. "Why are you telling me this? What do you get?" For the first time, she hesitated. "Because you spared my cousins in the arena. No outsider has ever done that. You showed mercy. That matters to me." He believed her. Mostly sunset came too quickly. The great hall was filled again. The crowd buzzing with anticipation. The leader sat on her throne, watching him like a hawk. The 7 women stood in a line. The warriors of each clan waited nearby, their hands on their weapons. The leader's voice rang out. "Captain James Carter of Earth, the claims have been made. The trials have begun. Now choose." James walked forward slowly, his boots loud on the polished floor. Every step felt heavier. He stopped in front of the woman in the red dress. She looked up at him, calm but alert. For a moment, he glanced at the others. Some glared, others looked away. Then he turned back to her. "I choose," he said clearly, "the one who stood against her own people to warn me." Gasps spread through the crowd. The leader's smile was unreadable, half approval, half something darker. The woman in the red dress stepped forward, and James took her hand. The leader rose. The trial of the chosen is complete. Let it be recorded, this man stands under the protection of my bloodline." The crowd roared. Some in anger, some in celebration. James knew he had just avoided 6 more deadly fights. But as the leader's eyes locked with his, he realized this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a different kind of battle. Asterisk. The cheering in the great hall faded into a low hum as Captain James Carter stood beside the woman in the red dress. He still didn't know her name, she had never given it, but she held herself with the calm strength of someone used to being watched. The leader, her mother, descended the steps of her throne. Her long gown shimmered in the torchlight as she approached, a faint smile playing on her lips. "You have made your choice," she said softly, almost like a compliment. "Now you must accept the bond." James tensed. "Accept? I thought the trial was over." "Oh, Captain," the leader said with amusement, "the choosing is only the first step. Acceptance, that is something else entirely." Guards stepped forward, parting the crowd. A wide circle of empty floor was cleared. The leader raised her hand. In the presence of all clans, she declared, "The bond must be sealed through the test of unity." James glanced at Harris, who gave him a descant-be-good look. From the other side of the hall, a group of armored warriors stepped forward, 6 of them, each wearing a different crest on their breastplate. Their faces were hard, their eyes locked on James. The leader continued. "To prove himself worthy of the bond, the chosen man must endure a challenge from each clan. If he falls, the bond is void, and the woman is free to choose another." Harris leaned in and whispered, translation, "If you can't handle this, they'll kill you and give her to someone else." James kept his eyes on the warriors.
"Got it."
The first warrior stepped into the circle, holding a long spear tipped with crystal. He spun it once, the tip glowing faintly. The gong sounded, and he lunged. James sidestepped, using the warrior's momentum to send him stumbling. The crowd murmured clearly. Speed was not what they expected from a human. The second warrior attacked with a chain weapon, swinging it in wide arcs. James ducked under one swing, then caught the chain with his forearm, yanking hard. The warrior stumbled forward, and James knocked him flat. The third came at him barehanded, his strikes fast and precise. James blocked, dodged, and finally landed a punch to the jaw that sent the man sprawling by the fourth challenger. James's breath was coming harder, sweat on his brow. This one fought with twin curved blades, forcing James into a constant retreat. He barely managed to disarm him. The crowd roaring at the display. The fifth was the largest yet a towering alien with arms like tree trunks. James couldn't match his strength, so he used his speed, dodging until the giant grew frustrated and overextended. A quick trip sent him crashing to the ground. Finally, the sixth warrior stepped forward. This one was differently quick, and wearing no armor. His weapon was a slender dagger, and his eyes held no anger, only sharp calculation. The gong sounded. They circled each other slowly. The alien feinted twice, testing James's reflexes. Then he lunged. James blocked, twisted, and they struggled for control of the dagger. In a blur, James wrenched the weapon free and pressed the blade to the alien's throat. The hall went silent. James stepped back and dropped the dagger. Into the sand. The leader's voice carried through the hall. The human has endured the challenges. The bond stands. The woman in the red dress stepped forward. For the first time, she spoke loudly enough for all to hear. My name is Saranya of the High Bloodline. And by our law, this man is now my bonded mate. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The political weight of her name was clear. Saranya wasn't just the leader's daughter. She was heir to the throne. Harris muttered under his breath, "Congratulations, Captain. You just married into the royal family of an alien planet. James kept his face calm, but his mind raced. This bond wasn't just a personal matter, it was political dynamite. Every rival of Serenia's clan would now see him as a threat. Every ally would expect him to play a role in their power games. The leader stepped closer, her voice low so only he and Serenia could hear. You have chosen well, Captain. Or perhaps she chose well for you. Either way, you now carry the weight of our unity and our enemies. Serenia's gaze didn't leave his. You could have refused and fought until you died. You didn't. That means you're ready to stand. Beside me, James gave a half smile. Or maybe I just like living. She allowed herself the smallest smile. Then keep living. You'll need the strength for what comes next. The hall erupted in celebration music, dancing, the sound of goblets clinking, but James could feel the undercurrent of danger in every cheer. In the shadows near the far wall, several men watched him with hard eyes. Harris leaned close. We need to get out of here before someone decides to test that bond with a knife in the dark. James nodded slightly. We can't leave. Not yet. If I run, they'll call it cowardice. And then it won't just be the clans, I'll have the whole planet after me. Serenia stepped between them. You're both wrong. You're staying. Because the real challenge hasn't begun. My mother will call the council tomorrow, and when she does, we'll see just how dangerous this bond really is. James looked at her, reading the seriousness in her eyes. The trial of the chosen had been brutal, but it was only a doorway. Beyond it lay something far more dangerous, and now he was already inside. The palace was quiet that night, but Captain James Carter could feel danger in the air like an electrical charge. The grand celebration had ended hours ago, yet the echo of music and the weight of many stares still clung to him. He stood by the window of his guest chamber, looking out at the city of Varela Prime. Crystal towers glowed in the moonlight. The streets below shimmered with blue fireflies drifting between balconies. It was beautiful. But James couldn't shake the thought that he was looking at a battlefield disguised as a jewel dot behind him. The door opened softly. Serenia, still in her red dress, slipped inside. She closed the door and leaned against it, as if making sure no one had followed. You should be sleeping, James said quietly. So should you, she replied, walking toward him. But neither of us can, because tomorrow changes everything. James turned to face her. You told me the bond would protect me. But I can see in your eyes that's not the full story. What does this greeting actually mean? Rania hesitated, then stepped closer, her voice lowering to a whisper. The gesture lifting the dress began long before our cities were built. Back when my people lived in warrior clans and women chose their mates for strength, not politics. James crossed his arms. So it's just an old marriage tradition. She shook her head. No, it's a claim of alliance. When a woman lifts her dress to a man, she is saying, I choose to share my name, my resources, and my life with you. It's not just personal, it's political. It binds families together. It can start peace. Or war. James frowned. And all those women who greeted me were making offers, Serenia finished. Some were genuine, some were traps. But when you smiled at me in the Great Hall, you accepted mine in front of the entire planet, and now. She paused, her eyes sharp. You're not just my bondmate. You're heir consort to the throne of Varela Prime. The words hit him like a blow. Consort, as in future king. In name, yes. In power. That depends on you, Serenia said. My mother has been planning to unite the clans for years. She thought she would do it by marrying me to one of the rival heirs. Instead, I chose an outsider, you, which forces every clan to decide if they will accept your rule or destroy you. James rubbed his forehead. Basically, I've walked straight into the middle of a political war I didn't even know existed. Saranya's expression softened slightly. You didn't walk, you were pulled. And I was the one who pulled you. But I did it because you're different. You didn't kill my cousins in the arena. You fought with skill and mercy. That makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is our only advantage. She led him to a small table where a bottle of clear, glowing liquid sat. Pouring 2 cups, she handed one to him. This, she said, is offered only to bonded mates. Drinking it together before the council means the bond is recognized by every clan. Once we drink, breaking the bond would mean breaking sacred law. James stared at the cup, and if I don't drink, her voice was calm, but the answer was sharp. The clans will call you a coward, strip me of my claim, and execute you before sunset. You will not make it off this planet alive. James let out a long breath. You really know how to make a guy feel welcome? Saranya leaned in, her tone serious. If you drink, you live for now, but then you will have enemies in every shadow. Some will try to challenge you, some will try to use you, and some will try to kill you quietly. James met her gaze. Why do I feel like you're not warning me to make me run, but to make me ready? Because I need you ready, she said simply. My mother thinks she controls this game. She doesn't. If you and I work together, we can change everything. James studied her face. He saw no fear, only determination. And what's the first step? Tomorrow, she said, when we stand before the council, you cannot look weak. Not even for a second. Speak boldly. Challenge them if you must. Show them that humans are not pawns. He glanced at the glowing drink again, and this. She lifted her own cup. This makes the council listen to you instead of ordering your death. James raised his cup, the liquid catching the moonlight. To survival, then, to survival, she agreed. They drank. The taste was strange sweet. At first, then burning like fire. James set the cup down, feeling warmth spread through his chest. He wasn't sure if it was the drink, or the knowledge that his life had just shifted forever. Saranya stood. Sleep, if you can. Tomorrow, you face more than the council you. Face every ambition, every grudge, and every secret in this planet's history. And now, you are part of that history. She left without another word, the door clicking shut behind her. James turned back to the window. The city still shimmered under the moonlight. But now he could almost see the invisible lines, Glen territories. Hidden alliances, silent rivalries. The real meaning of the greeting was no longer a mystery. But knowing it didn't make him safer. It made him a target. And tomorrow, the entire planet would decide if that target was worth keeping alive. The council chamber of Varela Prime was a vast circle of crystal walls, open to the sky. The morning sun spilled in, casting sharp beams across the floor. In the center stood a round platform bare, except for 2 seats. One for Saranya, one for James. All around them, the high seats were filled with the clan leaders. Each wore the colors and symbols of their people's serpents of gold, birds of flame, beasts carved into silver armor. Their eyes followed James with cold interest. Whispers rippled through the chamber. The outsider, the human, the chosen of the high bloodline. James sat beside Saranya, keeping his back straight. He could feel the weight of the glowing drink from last night still warm in his chest, though he suspected that warmth was more from nerves than tradition. The leader, Saranya's mother, stood at the highest seat. "We are gathered," she said, her voice echoing in the crystal chamber, "to recognize the bond between Saranya of the High Bloodline and Captain James Carter of Earth, and to decide whether he is fit to remain among us." Her words were like a spark in dry grass. The leaders began speaking over one another. Some argued for acceptance, others demanded the bond be broken and James removed permanently. One leader, a tall man, in black and silver, stood. He is not one of us. He does not know our laws. Why should he hold any place in our line of power? Another, wearing a crown of bone, sneered. A mistake. Break the bond before his presence divides us. James glanced at Serenia. She gave him a small nod, the signal they had agreed upon. It meant, speak now and don't hold back. James rose to his feet. You speak of unity, yet your first thought is to cut the bond that could bring peace to every clan here. The chamber went still. You think I don't understand your laws? James continued. But I've seen how they work, how a simple gesture can be used as a weapon. I've fought your warriors and shown them mercy. I've been claimed, challenged, and tested more in 3 days than most outsiders survive in a lifetime, and I'm still standing. A murmur moved through the seats. I didn't come here to take your world, James said, his voice steady. I came here to honor it. But if you think I will stand quietly while you use me as a pawn in your clan rivalries, you're wrong. I won't be your pawn. I'll be your liar, your enemy. You decide. The boldness in his tone was deliberate. Serenia had warned him. Weakness here was an open invitation for death. The leader in black and silver stood again. Then prove it. Swear loyalty to my clan over the others. Another shouted, no, swear to mine. A third barked, let him fight again. If he wins, he earns his place. The chamber erupted in argument. Serenia rose, her voice cutting through the noise. Enough. My bondmate does not swear to one clan. He stands with all clans or with none. James stepped forward, raising his voice over the protests. If you truly want unity, then here is my offer. I will swear loyalty to every clan equally. But only if each clan swears loyalty back to me, not as ruler, as protector. The words shocked the room into silence. The leader's mother studied him carefully. You would take the burden of protecting all our people, even those who hate. You? Yes, James said without hesitation. Because if I protect only some of you, the rest will always see me as the enemy. And I'm tired of enemies. I want something better. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, one of the elders stood. I will swear, she said, her voice clear. If he breaks his word, I will be the first to strike him down. But if he keeps it, he will be the first human I call brother. One by one, others rose. Some reluctantly, some with genuine respect. The last to stand was the leader in black and silver. He locked eyes with James for several seconds before speaking. Very well. But know this, human, if you fail, your blood will be the price. James nodded once. Fair enough. The leader's mother raised her hands, and let it be recorded. The bond stands. The human is protector to all clans of Irela Prime. The chamber erupted in a mix of cheers and grudging applause as the meeting ended. Serenia leaned close, her voice barely above a whisper. You just changed the game. No outsider has ever made the clans swear to them. My mother didn't see that coming. James gave her a small smile. Good. I like surprising people. Her expression softened. You're not just my bondmate now. You're part of this world. And you'll need to be ready because some will still try to end you. He glanced toward the high seats where the leader in black and silver still watched him with narrowed eyes. Yeah, James said. I noticed. That night, the city glowed brighter than ever, the streets alive with celebration. But James knew it wasn't just joy, was the restless energy of a planet adjusting to a new reality. From this day forward, he wasn't just an outsider. He was a protector. And protectors didn't get to rest for long, standing on the balcony beside Serenia. He looked out over Irela Prime. Looks like we've got work to do, he said, She smiled faintly, her eyes fixed on the stars. Yes, Captain, and now, we do it together. The wind carried the sound of the cheering crowds below, but above it all was the unspoken truth: they had survived the trials. But survival was only the first step. The real challenge was just beginning.